On this call, we have Dr. N. Kamakodi, MD and CEO of the bank, and Mr. V. Ramesh, the CFO. Thank you, sir, for the opportunity of hosting you on this call. I would now like to hand over the call to Dr. N. Kamakodi, sir, for his opening comments, post which we can open the floor to questions. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Ajit Kumar. Good evening, everyone. Hearty welcome to all of you for this con call to discuss the financial results for the quarter ended 30th June 2021 of City Union Bank. Hope all of you and your family members are safe and following COVID safety norms of masking, social distancing, vaccination and all. The board approved the unaudited results today and hope you all have the copies of the results and the presentations. As conveyed earlier, we are having our annual general meeting on 19th August 2021 and we invite you all to participate online and provide your support. We shared with you all the following expectations for financial year 21-22 during our last con call on 20th May 2021 when we discussed the annual results. Our outlook for the financial year 2021-22, we shared as follows. The credit growth for the year to be at mid to high single digit if the economic environment and the COVID second wave behaves like last year. Overall slippages to closing advances to be slightly below that of financial year 2021. The slippages may be more front-loaded with increased slippages in Q1 and Q2 financial year 2022. Recoveries to be impacted because of the lockdown, non-functioning of government registration department and also non-functioning of the courts, and courts are showing more sympathy towards defaulters rather than the banks. The gross and net NPA for the financial year 2022 to be a shade lower than financial year 2021 with a few quarterly spikes. Return on assets to reach a level of 1.5% towards the second half of financial year 2022-23. And despite the COVID second wave, the performance during the current period is almost in tune with the expectations we already shared with you during the last con call. The highlights of the quarterly performances are as follows. Deposits recorded a growth of 9% to rupees 44,606 crore from 41,026 crore. Credit grew by 5% to rupees 36,395 crores from 34,536 crore. Thus, business grew by 7% and presently stands at 81,001 crore. CASA deposits recorded a growth of 22%, outsmarting the overall deposit growth to rupees 12,299 crore from rupees 10,098 crore, and hence the percentage CASA deposits improved to 28% in Q1 financial year 22 against 25% in the Q1 financial year 21. The growth in the operating profit for the financial year Q1 financial year 22 versus Q1 financial year 21 was 8%. And in absolute terms, it stood at rupees 383 crore against 356 crore in the last year first quarter. Net profit for the first quarter improved by 12% to rupees 173 crore from first quarter financial year 22 against 154 crore in the first quarter financial year 21. Return on assets at 1.29% for the first quarter current financial year against 1.15% for the whole year of financial year 2021, and it is well on track for getting the ROA back to 1.5% trajectory in the next year as anticipated earlier. The credit growth achieved in the on 30th June 2021 vis-a-vis 30th June 20 was 5% year-on-year basis. The growth came mainly from gold loan and a non-agri gold loan which has in fact doubled. We shall push the growth pedal only when the environment becomes conducive for other normal advances. We expect that there will not be any third wave. At the same time, we are cautious on that. We had a slippage of 482 crore in the financial year first quarter financial year 22, and slippages were front-loaded in tune with our expectations shared on 28th May 2021. We feel it should be moderating going forward, and we still expect overall slippages for financial year 2022 will be flattish or less than whatever we saw in financial year 2021. The recovery for the current quarter Q1 financial year 22 was at 101 crore, comprising of 82 crore in live account and 19 crore from the technical return of accounts. As compared to the recovery during fourth quarter financial year 21 was 110 crore, 76 crore in live and 34 crore in technically written off. So the lockdown because of the second wave also played some spoil sport. Courts are slowly coming back to the normal functioning. We expect recoveries to improve in the second half, and that's why we expect the gross and net NPA to be better during the year end, which once again is mainly because of our expectations on improvement in the legal procedure and recovery towards the second half of the current financial year. The gross and net NPA stands at 5.59% and 3.49% respectively, against 5.11% and 2.97% in the financial year 2021. As said during our earlier con calls, we expect that the gross and net NPA should be shared better for the financial 31st March 2021. Once again, considering the reduction in the addition in the second half, and also improvement of the recoveries because of the improvement in the court processes, particularly in taking possession and selling the properties through SARFAESI action. During the financial year 2021, we had restructured about 990 crores of MSME accounts and about 595 crores of non-MSME through COVID resolution framework. Apart from the above, prior to COVID, we had restructured an amount of 242 crore under MSME and 22 crore under non-MSME. Thus, the percentage restructured accounts outstanding as on 31st March 2021 stood at 1,849 crores, comprising of about 5% to closing advances. After the originally, it was as if the restructuring window was getting closed with December, and the final processes should have been completed by the 31st March. But because of the second wave on 5th May 2021, RBI extended the restructuring deadline up to September 21, and also raised the threshold limit of restructuring to 50 crore from 25 crore. Based on our prior experience, we are encouraging our eligible cases to use the dispensation, considering the future uncertainty, mainly from the COVID third wave or whatever it is. So we are in engagement with the customers, and through the active engagement, we are trying to encourage wherever the customer even has an iota of uncertainty or whatever it is. During Q1 financial year 22, we had restructured an amount of 83 crore towards MSME and about 103 crore towards non-MSME through COVID resolution framework 2.0. As on 30th June 2021, the total restructured accounts outstanding is about 1,984 crore of 84 crore. Considering the uncertainty of third wave, as I said earlier, we are following up with the eligible customers and encourage them to use the regulatory dispensation. Though we are not seeing so much interest yet, we expect there could be another 1 to 1.25% depending upon the interest of the customers before the restriction. In the earlier, bad cycles and all, our experience in using the RBI dispensation had really helped us. And another thing what you have to remember is that these facilities are available only for those accounts which did not have, SMA 2 or SMA 1 on 29th February 2020, depending upon their MSME.
Ladies and gentlemen, requesting you all to please stay online. We are just trying to reconnect the management back to the conference. Requesting all the participants to please stay online. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for patiently holding the line. We have the management reconnected. Over to you, sir.
Sorry about that. The line got disconnected. Just to continue from where we left, considering the uncertainties of COVID third wave, we are following up with the eligible customers. We had reasonably good experiences in the previous regulatory dispensation when we could, like say, through this restructuring, we could save many accounts who could go through the difficult phases and all. The uncertainties of the COVID wave are there, but we are taking all the steps to give the support to the regulatory dispensation which is available at this point of time. Just to give you an idea of that, about 1,900 odd crore restructured, about 400 crore which of advances which we restructured during the earlier part of the last year. We had given them like say 6 months of like say moratorium and repayment to start after the 6 months and all, considering whatever situation prevailing at that point of time. And our experience with that 400 crore which had started the repayment is reasonably good. The slippage from that is very minuscule, and almost all of them, most of them are doing a good job and started repayment and all. Like that, we like say, though there will be some elevated stress, we don't expect stress to be significantly higher in that, because even the eligibility criteria for restructuring takes care that those accounts which are getting restructured are by and large like say reasonably performing on 29th February 2020, which is pre-COVID cutoff date. So we don't feel like say any surprise about that, and we feel this should really help them going forward, and this is what we have been maintaining right from the beginning. We always maintain that this is the time, because of the uncertainties, it is the time to like say help the customers to the extent possible, and that is for that they are being consistently like say paying premium interest rate to us compared to the other banks and all, and that's why we feel this is the way we have to handle this. So regarding the SMA position, our SMA 2 position on 30th June stood at 3.16%, and which was about 2% or 1.99% on 31st March 2021, and which is much below our usual pre-COVID band of 5 to 6%. And we had even period like say a few quarters which we had shared with you all, that we had like say a couple of years when the level used to be at 12% also. So things are now currently SMA 2 position currently stabilizing at about like say 3 to 3.25%, which is also not very bad considering the situation at this particular point of time. The cost to income ratio for the first quarter stood at 40.46% compared to 41.45% for the year as a whole in financial year 2021. We had good opportunities to make profit in the treasury operations last year, and that opportunity may not be available this year. The quantum of other income to be booked this year will be determined by the collection of technically written off accounts, which will once again be determined by the like say court functioning, which we expect to pick up only in the second half. So in between, the cost to income ratio may inch up. So because of that overall factor, there could be some incremental cost to income ratio. But we are waiting for the other income to balance from the recovery of technically written off accounts. The net interest margin for the current quarter stands at 3.86%. If you had a chance to look into our last 50 to 60 quarters, till 2 years back, we always used to be in the range of about 3.4 to 3.75% net interest margin. The net interest margin used to expand when the interest rate cycle goes up and contract when the interest rate cycle goes down. But in the just earlier cycle, even though the interest rate cycle started falling down, the margins did not contract because there was supply side constraint, particularly when most of the public sector banks were under the PCA framework and there was supply side issues on credit. But now, the liquidity, is currently overflooded in the market, and the credit deposit ratio has also come down to around 80 to 82% bucket, and that's why, we are anticipating that for the current financial year, net interest margin will remain in the range of 3.75 to 4%. We are currently, if you have seen, both our cost of deposits and yield on advances have almost, yield on funds have almost come down equally in a parallel way. But because of the reduced CD ratio, there is some amount of moderation of few basis points in terms of net interest margin. But this is what we expect between 3.75 to 4% for the current financial year. During the financial year 2020, we kept the profits at ROA of 1%, and over and above that, we made a COVID provision. And for financial year 2021, we declared a net profit with ROA of 1.15%. So we in fact shared with you all that we should be reaching the level of 1.5% ROA in the second half of financial year 22-23. I think we are on track on the, on whatever we promised earlier. And we also, received questions from few analysts you could have, revised, reversed the entire surplus COVID provision and put it for the NPA and increase your coverage ratio and things like that. All these things are basically, everything is in the open domain. So these decisions we take depending upon the, factors that are prevailing at this point of time. So I think we will be completing that entire surplus COVID provision in the second quarter, and after that, the slippages should also reduce, and the recoveries from the existing NPA should also increase, so that we should be seeing things coming down, and so we have kept some cushion for the next quarter per se. Our capital adequacy ratio currently stands at 19.58%, of which Tier 1 itself is about 18.51% for the 30th June 2021. It has improved mainly because, a lot of gold loan and all. The other, the incremental loans mainly has 0% risk weight because of the regulatory guideline. We are adequately capitalized, and we don't foresee any capital requirement at the current year or maybe next year also. But as a practice, we are always keeping the, shareholders' permission with an enabling resolution passed in every year AGM, so that depending upon the prevailing conditions or any regulatory requirement or anything, if at all we need, we can always go for equity raising. So right from 2013 onwards, we are getting this shareholders approval, but we have not been using it for the past 7-8 years. Following that practice, this year also in AGM, we are asking for the shareholders approval, which will, we don't expect to use that, but it's as a matter of abundant caution, we are always keeping that regulatory permission on hand. So to sum up, almost things are progressing well, and almost in tune with the expectations, whatever we shared with you in the earlier con call on 28th May 2021. We hope there won't be any, like say, third COVID wave. At the same time, we are keeping all the, like say, precautions, whatever that is needed, because that amount of uncertainty is always there. The impact of cold wave, I mean, just to give you a broader thing, starting from the 1st of March 2020 to currently in the past 16 months or so, we almost had 20% of our team members got infected by COVID, and we had about 4 to 5 casualties in this period because of that. But overall, even though the infection rate and the mortality rate were higher this time, both at the confidence level at the customer side and also at our side, things are like say much better compared to whatever we had during the COVID-1. At the same time, there are uncertainties about the COVID third wave is getting discussed again and again. But hopefully, let us hope for the best, but at the same time, prepare ourselves both mentally and whatever way possible. So gross and net NPA for the year end will be like say lower. At the same time, as said, there could be spike in the front loaded during the first half. So overall, on all parameters, including ROA and everything, the things are very much on the like say going smoothly on the expected line. This is what I like say wanted to discuss with you all to start with. Now we can go for Q&A.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin the question answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handset while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Mona Khetan from Dolat Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi sir, good evening. So I have 2 questions. Firstly, on the restructured book, so you have already mentioned 5.5% of book. Could there be more in pipeline in terms of the restructuring? And yeah.
See, basically, we had always been very liberal with the giving regulatory forbearance to the people. We actively engage with them, engage with our customers, and encourage them to use that. As of now, like say, I don't have anything, but I feel there could, since the restructuring window is opened and expected, my gut feeling says we may be having about maybe 1 to 1.25% going forward. Additional restructuring, if at all it comes to.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't get that. 1 to 1.5% additional.
1 to 1.25.
Okay. Got it. And on the SMA book, you mentioned it stands at about in the range of 3.25%, much lower than what we have seen at pre-COVID. Could this be partly driven by the higher forbearance in terms of both ECLGS or restructuring that we have seen, and once things normalize, maybe 2 years down the line, could this number be back to 6% or so, given the kind of segment you are in?
See, that should be the like say a logical thing to expect. But one thing which we are clearly seeing is that many of the like say the portion of the customers who typically used to have that pay only after their 70th day or 80th day, and the question, in this business per se, particularly the SME never got themselves reconciled with the daily overdue or daily arrears. They typically used to keep our accounts order only during the quarter end. That used to be the practice always. But when that, let's say, after the COVID restructuring and other things were not permitted for the customers who were on SMA 2 on or SMA 1 on 28th February 2020, I think people are now reconciling to this fact, and the concept of, let's say, daily collection and keeping the account and order, that discipline is definitely improving the system. So my gut feeling is that, let's say, even when this system normalizes, now also you have to understand, everyone is paying their interest, which is also an indication that there is a sufficient cash flow. And we feel when things stabilizes in future, the, let's say, the SMA portion should be lower than whatever we saw during the pre-COVID period. Mainly because the increased discipline which we are seeing at the even at this strata of the business because of, like, say, certain forbearances and all, they have been told that they cannot avail because they did not maintain their account up to date on 28th February, on or before 28th February 2020.
Sure, got it. And finally, I missed some of your early comments. So just to check on your ROA guidance, you had earlier said that, ROA should normalize by the second half of fiscal year FY23. So do you continue to maintain that, or could that be deferred because of what we have seen in the last couple of months?
We are not deferring, and I just said multiple times that we are on track. You can also see the ROA improving now, and we are on track to have our ROA touching, let's say, 1.5% in the second half of financial year 22-23 as given earlier. Hopefully, there is no third wave which derails the things.
Sure. Thank you and all the best, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. A reminder to the participants, if you wish to ask a question, please press star then 1 on your touchtone telephone. The next question is from the line of Jai Mundra from B&K Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, good evening, sir. I have a couple of questions. So first, sir, in terms of collection efficiency, right? So Tamil Nadu probably had slightly higher, stricter mobility restrictions as compared to rest of India. So if you can highlight that, how things have been maybe in the month of July as compared to June in terms of collection efficiency.
In fact, things started getting relaxed after the 30th June. In fact, the 30th June was more when June is the month where you had stricter norms per se. The SMA 2 numbers which we have given itself will be an indicator to you on how things have improved. In fact, when I let's say attended the con call on fourth quarter last year on 28th May, even I was on my last day of quarantine and we had infections at higher rate at that point of time, and it's improving.
Yeah. So, sir, if you can highlight what was your collection efficiency maybe for the month of...
The collection efficiency is a measure which is normally looked into when the post-dated checks and term loan collections happen. Since our thing is mostly on the CC account and let's say only 1/3 exposure to the term loan, we give you that SMA 2 figure.
Right. Okay. Because earlier we were sharing, so I was just checking.
No, that was, we never shared the collection efficiency. Kindly remember. That was only we shared what proportion of the advances had paid up to what month of that due.
Right. So same thing, sir. If you have maybe the
same thing. Yeah, that's the same thing. The SMA 2 number itself will be an indication for you.
Right. And sir, would there be because as you said from July onwards, so from July maybe 1st onwards things have started to improve. Is there a, let's say, a marked improvement from June level? I mean, this 3.3 to 3.5% number, that would be June number, right?
Yeah. See, the issue is, like say, the band you have seen from 1.99 to say 3.2, which is hardly a movement of like say less than 2% in a span of 3 months.
Right.
So it's basically you look at the big picture and move forward.
Right. Right. And sir, in terms of your new, so let's say if you were to look at your if you divide your customers into two portions, one is those who are already delaying payment. So let's say they are in SMA 012, and hence therein you want them not to shift the bucket. And there is another set of customers which are, which are zero DPD and standard. Right. So are you seeing that at least the new customers are not getting into a delinquent bucket, and there may be some customers who are already delinquent, they may be finding it difficult to get out of the delinquent bucket?
No, for us, it doesn't normally happen that way. What we typically see is that, say, about 90% of them will be current.
Okay.
About, like say, you had the 3.5%, whatever we discussed is in SMA 2, which will boil down to another 4-5% in the SMA 1.
Okay.
So, and you will be having maybe a 10% of the people moving to the, like say, they will be in SMA 2 in the month of June and suddenly coming back to the normal in July and all. These sort of things you normally see here. It's not that one stays in the same bucket.
Right. Okay.
So
no,
that's
so
why
the reason why I'm asking,
I have given you like say a clear indication on what is going to be your annual slippage.
Right.
So with it, you will be in a position to make your own calculations.
Right. So if I were to just back calculate that, first quarter has been reasonably heavy. So it looks like barring maybe 2Q, things will become very, very normal in terms of slippages, right? So there has to be a reason that at least the problem at this point of time maybe is only SMA 1-2. I mean, is that the way? Or
no, the issue is, as you rightly said, you had tighter norms during the month of, like say, from the May end to June. You will, once things are absolutely, like say, to greater extent, you don't have anything and things are coming back to the normalcy. You have, as I told earlier, you have few sectors like the public transport, like omnibuses and things like that, or your hotels and tourism related items and all. These sectors have not come out of the shock yet. They are not yet fully operational. And some of them, like say, they have reduced their outstanding by selling their non-core assets, and like say, some are asking for the restructuring or already got restructured. All these people are in, like say, they will be in the stressed category till things normalizes. Apart from that, other sectors of, like say, the whatever 5-6% which are moving from one segment to another segment, they are, like say, depending upon the, like say, strictness down is done, some amount of disruptions in the cash flow will be there. But this time, in most of the manufacturing, like say, because the, like say, the migrant workers and all did not go home and all, and at many places and all, the manufacturing were allowed to function with the activity did not become zero for some time, like say, unlike what happened in the last time. So there are few segments which were affected, continued to get affected from the first wave, and a few segments which got affected in the first wave but are doing reasonably better this time.
Right. Understood, sir. And the next question is on ROA trajectory. Right? So as of now, we are around 1.29. And, this quarter, as you said, slippages have been front-loaded. Next quarter also you are indicating there could be, elevated slippages and then it should taper. But in the next quarter, you are going to write back whatever is the residual provisioning. So, I mean, I'm saying from 1.3% ROA, why would there be so much time before you reach 1.5% for the next 4? I mean, you are saying that from 5 quarters hence we will reach to 1.5%. So why? Why will not things normalize quicker?
See, it's not 5 quarter; it is 4 quarter. So okay, if you take it in your way, improving ROA by 5 basis point quarter by quarter is not an easy joke. I want to make it very clear. If increasing that is like just shifting a gear in the car, every bank should be having 1.5% ROA by now.
Right.
You have to do tapasya to take ROA by like say every basis point above 1. You agree with me or not?
No, I agree, sir. Understood.
It's not just pulling your Excel spreadsheet.
Right. Okay. And sir, just on MSME restructured, right? So RBI regulation says if they pay 20%, then you can reverse half of the provisions. But the tagging of an account as restructured, when will it become a standard? I mean, without restructuring tag, or that will remain till the entire tenure gets over?
No, basically, like say 2 years, if they had performed as per the restructuring terms, they will be losing the tag. But there is another tag on that. Even after that, if any time in future, like say, till that those accounts are totally closed, say for example, after 5 years, that particular account slips into NPA, the provisioning norms will be completely changed, and they will be considered as NPA. From the date of restructuring, and so the incremental provisioning you have to make as per that aging.
Understood. But that untagging will only happen if they until the loan gets over, right?
No, 2 years from the date of restructuring, you can normalize. And all the other things can be done. Like they will not be disclosed as restructuring in the regulatory filing and things like that.
Okay. So if you are given 1 year moratorium, then after that one year moratorium window, if they perform for 2 years, then they will be untagged.
Yeah, and you can reverse that surplus, standard asset provision, whatever you are making on that restructuring.
Right.
After the 2 years of functioning.
Understood. Great, sir. I have few more questions. I will come back in this week. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Before we take the next question, a reminder to the participants, if you wish to ask a question, please press star then 1. The next question is from the line of Akshay Ashok from Dalal & Broacha. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi sir. Congrats on a good set of numbers. I just wanted to know the reason why your provisioning has gone down on a QOQ basis. Is it because of more restructuring? What is the reason? Because I see the numbers and it has gone down on a QOQ basis around sequentially. Around 29% provisions have come down on a QOQ basis. What is the main reason for this? Thanks.
See, basically we had taken about 83 crores from the whatever we kept for the COVID.
Okay.
So this provision was made in the last year itself.
Okay.
And that's why it looks lower for you.
Okay.
P&L impact is taken already.
Okay. Okay. So you are seeing situation improving, so that's why you reduced it.
Yeah, sort of.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. A reminder to the participants, if you wish to ask a question, please press star then 1. The next question is from the line of Prabal Gandhi from Antique Limited. Please go ahead.
Hello, am I audible?
Absolutely. Please go ahead.
Thank you, sir, for the opportunity. Sir, on the cost of deposit or cost of funds, how much low can it go from here?
See, it's very difficult to completely predict per se. We could clearly see about a 10 basis point reduction between the fourth quarter and this quarter. And we don't expect any major interest rate reduction going forward, as it has been clearly told, and looks like you have reached what you call almost the bottom of the rate cycle as given by the Monetary Policy Committee today. Because of the lag effect, you may at the best have maybe another 15-20 basis point going forward, which will be the bottommost point in the this cycle. Already, whatever we are seeing is the historical low in our on cost of deposit front in our history.
So these 15 basis points will be on the basis of repricing, not on the deposit cut that we can initiate from the.
Exactly.
And sir, how much was the interest reversal for the current quarter?
20 crores.
20 crores. So even if I adjust for that, our yield on advances has dropped from around 10.4 to quite sharply.
Yes, I have. Yes. In fact, I have told you both cost of funds and yield on funds are parallelly coming down for the last 4 to 5 quarters.
Yeah. But any specific reason why the yield on advances? Is it because of the repricing, or are we disbursing on?
No, the entire growth has come from the gold loan, which is being given at say 8.59% and things like that.
Okay. Sir, on the ECLGS portfolio, around 5-6% of our book is on the ECLGS. So are we seeing any signs of stress build up here?
No, it's nothing unusual. It's that's what I told you. We don't in fact I was discussing with you all during the like say I think last quarter only results. We have started seeing at the overall exposure of the accounts which are like say which have taken ECLGS showing reduction in the overall outstanding. And in fact, the total exposure on 31st March 2021 was about 1,960 crore, and there is about 10 crore reduction in that portfolio as a whole. It's and in fact somebody asked like say how they will get normalized and all. We told we will be taking that as a part of working capital assessment when we assess the next year working capital requirement and things like that. So that requirement has by and large gone.
So no. So from June onwards, the repayment would have to start.
Yeah.
So are we seeing any slippages from there or any stress?
No, there is no undue slippage from this portfolio or whatever it is.
Because sir, one of the peers recently reported that around 2% of the ECLGS book saw slippage. So that is why I was asking.
See, already the overall book slippage itself in the last year was about 3%. So the 2-3% slippage from this, like say, portfolio and all need not be looked as some additional whatever it is.
And sir, just a technical question. So in case there is a stress on the ECLGS portfolio, how much is guaranteed by the government, and how will that mechanism work in case there is an NPA there?
75% is the guarantee given by the, like say, I mean, they have given 100%. 75% payment once it is, I mean, how that mechanism works is, whenever we disperse a loan on ECLGS scheme, that entire data has to be given into the portal. So with all the detail, the portal takes up the data. Suppose, for example, we declare one particular account as NPA, we once again upload that in that portal. 75% of the, let's say, portion of that ECLGS portion is immediately credited to our account, and the balance 25% after all the recovery efforts are completed.
Okay, so the additional, so suppose there is a 10 crore outstanding and we gave 2 crore of ECLGS, so 75% of 2 crore will be credited to us and balance will be credited as the recovery.
Exactly.
Okay. And sir, just last question, how much COVID buffer are we holding?
Currently about 55 to 60 crore is the additional provision we have.
And this is excluding the restructuring provision?
Yes.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of V. Srinath from Bellwether Capital. Please go ahead.
Hello, sir. Just wanted to find out the gold loan, non-agri gold loan book numbers have been really encouraging even after the RBI reduced LTV for the product back to pre-COVID levels. Just want to understand what is driving this book. Is it a liability cross-sell or is it largely branch sourcing? And given that it's such a granular product, how are we sourcing, this kind of volume of customers, sir? Thank you.
See, this had been our breadwinner, like say, decades, up to probably maybe late 90s or so, when we started getting into the SME and other, like say, larger loans. As I told you earlier, like say, we always keep the, like say, active gold loan whenever we don't have anything else to do in our rural, semi-urban and select urban branches per se. So since we have not yet fully pressed the growth pedal across other branches, almost all the branches, like say the fundamental thing what you need to make your the branch marketing effort is that the communication at the like say location, particular town or village or catchment area, that you are giving your gold loan, and you will be like say leaving the fellow anybody coming for gold loan in 10 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever it is. So once you make that thing, automatically, like say, basically it is a competition to the money lenders and probably some cooperative societies and maybe at some places even the gold loan NBFCs.
Got it, sir. And the ROA of this product, you had, historically said that it's a touch below what the bank normally makes. But given the current yield situations, has that kind of improved, sir? What, at a very qualitatively, how are the ROAs in gold loans as we see it currently?
See, the average yield for agri and non-agri will be about, say, 9%, which is a very decent return at that point of time, particularly with very low NPA at this point of time. And when we don't have confidence to do any SME credit or anything because of the prevailing situation here, this is the best you can expect at this point of time.
Got it, sir. Got it. Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Dhaval Gada from DSP Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Sir, I just wanted to check again on this ECLGS slippage.
Mr. Gada, I'm sorry to interrupt, but your audio is not very audible, sir. Requesting you to please speak a bit louder.
Is it better now?
Please go ahead, sir. That's fine.
Yeah, okay. Sir, just following up on that ECLGS question, you mentioned that the stress is about 2-3%. If I just see the number last quarter, we had close to 2,000 crore disbursement. So which means about 10,000 crore would be the total loan exposure. And if I calculate about 2%, that turns out to about 200 crore, 200 to 300 crore, depending on the ratio. Is the understanding correct that in the last 2-3 quarters we would have seen 200-300 crore slippage from ECLGS?
No, not exactly. See, like say, many of the ECLGS fellows, like say, some of them, the repayment may itself start for this particular portion if they are not restructured only on the, like say, after 1 year or 2 years, depending upon which category of ECLGS they are getting into. At the same time, if they are not restructured, the regular term loan repayment will continue. So we have to look into all these aspects and make a call like to what extent there is a delay in the repayment and delay in the stress. So you will be having like say a few like say set of accounts which have got ECLGS. That exposure comes to as told it comes to about 1,900 odd crore and all. So out of which about 500 crore like say had both restructuring and also the ECLGS scheme, and about 400 crore of the overall 1,900 odd crore. Like say like that there are multiple classification with which it will be very difficult to hair split this into this. So let us understand this way. If you want to have the overall understanding of the stress, the like say your SMA2 numbers, which was at 2.99%, is at about 3 odd percentage at this particular point of time. So depending upon when the repayment starts, most of them will have their other like say term loans already having their own repayment schedule running and all. Taking into consideration, we will be in a position to give this. So we have taken all these behavioral pattern in our like say expectations. So only thing is that we have not factored in too much of like say the COVID third wave to impact overall thing. With that only we are conveying our overall slippage for the current year will be a shade lower than whatever we saw last year, and it will be front loaded and will get normalized in the second half. So that basically captures all the questions whatever you have asked now.
Understood, sir. Sir, and just going forward, since you gave a ROA guidance for second half of next year, directionally from the third quarter, and more into FY23, should we expect the normalized slippage run rate, which used to be earlier 200 odd crore per quarter kind of level, to come back, or it would be still elevated? The reason I ask this is, and the previous question as well, is because ECLGS, the real impact will be visible from the third quarter of this year when principal repayment will start. So that's where my question.
Please understand. Only the principal repayment of the ECLGS portion starts after 1 year or 2 years, depending upon the case. If they are not restructured, the other term loan repayment things, they continue as such. You understand what I am trying to say?
Right. Yeah, get it.
Yeah, and the ECLGS portion is hardly about 10 to 20% of their overall borrowing, and their repayment schedule of the ECLGS portion is basically very minuscule compared to their overall repayment schedule.
Okay.
But to answer your first question on, like say, how do we expect, our prayers and our expectation is almost similar to whatever you said at the beginning. So that from the third and fourth quarter, things slippage should normalize.
Understood, sir. Perfect. And sir, just one last question.
Don't think that it is driven by the like say repayment of the ECLGS and all.
Got it, sir. Got it. Clear. Sir, just one final point on the credit growth. You talked about as you get more comfortable, you will start opening up. And given the fact that Tamil Nadu is still not fully opened up, it's still under part lockdown. So when do you see the bank being ready to accelerate on this front? Would it be end of the year, somewhere start of next year? Because the reason I ask again is pre-pandemic as well, there was some growth slowdown that was visible. And then we've seen last 1.5 year in a similar trajectory. So just directionally, when do you see growth coming back?
See, last year, like say, towards the end of the third quarter and the fourth quarter, things almost came to as if, like say, the activity level came back to normalcy as if there was no tomorrow. Over 90% of the borrowers and all, they could record even a shade more turnover in financial year 2021 compared to whatever they recorded in the financial year 1920. despite having COVID lockdown in the first 3-4 months of the financial year 2021. So like that, we are let's say keeping our eyes and ears open to the let's say grassroots level. So if we see things stabilizing and also the risk of further COVID waves and resultant lockdowns get eliminated and all, we will ascertain whether we should be in a position to shift the let's say gear. We will get a clarity post Diwali.
Got it, sir. Perfect. Thank you and all the best. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Krishnan ASV from HDFC Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Many thanks for taking my question. I just wanted to understand what has the bank been able to do which has helped raise the SA productivity at the branches so sharply in the last 3 quarters? Because for a very long time, the SA productivity at a branch was roughly in the 8 to 10 crore range. Now suddenly it has shot up, and for 3 sustained quarters it's gone nearly to the 12-13 crore range. So I just wanted to understand, especially at a time when we had the pandemic going, so there is no way that branch officials can go out and seek deposits. So what has actually changed? Is it the open architecture initiatives, or is there something else that has happened at a branch level which has allowed you to source so much better?
See, it is a combination of factors. After we opened our video KYC and automatic opening of account, the average balance which we see in the video KYC opened accounts are shared higher than the accounts which are normally getting opened in the branches. This is one point. Another point basically is when our overall growth, even when the capacity of the SA portion growth remains constant, when the overall credit growth reduces, our deposit growth reduces, which makes us to reduce our term deposit portion, which is also indirectly helping to see the percentage SA increasing further.
No, so I was actually asking about the absolute SA. Point being, a branch needs to be able to do
usual growth. That 15 to 20% growth is something which normally happens, and that has continued to happen. Another 2-3% extra growth is happening because of the video KYC and things like that.
Got it. I just missed your comments on credit costs. So if you could just, if you don't mind, if you could just repeat what you mentioned around credit costs and how long before they begin to normalize?
So I have, even in the last quarter and this quarter, I am not giving any, guidance on the credit cost per se. What I have given is that year as a whole, the total incremental slippages will be, better than whatever, slightly better than whatever we saw in the last financial year, and it will be front-loaded. On recovery portion, the courts and all have not, have just come back to the normalcy, and we are not yet seeing the results. So we expect better recovery in the second half of the current financial year, resulting in gross and net NPA at the year end will be a shade, almost flat or a shade better than whatever we saw during financial year 2021. The other mathematical calculation is left to you.
Okay. That helps. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Niranjan Karfa from Nomura. Please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. I just wanted to follow up on Dhaval's question earlier, and that was related to the ECLGS customer versus a non-ECLGS customer. Could you highlight? I mean, I understand the customers in ECLGS would be from a divergent sectors, but still as an aggregate, do you see higher credit limit utilization for ECLGS customer or lower compared to the non-ECLGS customer? And at a certain point, I'm assuming, there will be a certain tipping point. I mean, if they are utilizing higher, it might mean that they are actually, the credit profile is weaker. So any color on those lines if you can highlight, sir?
Rather, I see that this way. Say, for example, you have given 10 to 20% is the incremental ECLGS that was given, like say that is being given, which typically is about the normal enhancement in a normal span of time, about like say 1 to 1.5 years of like say normal increment which a normal customer will get during a like say normal period. Mm-hmm. So we typically used to observe that in the incremental working capital assessment depending upon the thing. And I also remember saying this in the last I think con call only. When I compared between like say to please understand particularly on ECLGS thing 2-3 things. Only those accounts which were healthy on 28th February 2020 are eligible for ECLGS. Sure. If the stress was there even before the pre-COVID, they don't have any like say eligibility for the ECLGS scheme. So about 20% or 10% depending upon the thing it was given, and I in fact specifically told ECLGS customers who utilized about 50% of that total ECLGS who took it, mm-hmm. They had at aggregate level, at like say customer ID level, they had lower exposure on 31st March 2021 compared to 31st March 2020, even though they had utilized ECLGS. So ECLGS was mainly utilized for, like say, to take care of the temporary cash flow mismatches and liquidity at that point of time. It was needed at that point of time. Mm-hmm. And a customer get it at a lower rate, and it is also guaranteed by the government. So the customer is happy that he is getting at a lower interest rate, and banks are happy that they are getting for that portion the government guarantee. So basically, even at that point of, I don't have the figure for 30th June because I did this exercise and discussed only on with the 31st March figure. Despite having taken to call ECLGS scheme, the customers having about 50% of the exposure on those customers who took ECLGS scheme, the total outstanding for at the customer ID level, their ECLGS scheme was like say still outstanding, but they reduced it as working capital, and the year-end figure was lower than the previous years despite taking ECLGS.
Okay. So, sir, extending it further, would it therefore have a, the trend of growth itself will be divergent? Do you expect the ECLGS customers to take lesser, working capital loans going forward?
No. I'll explain to you. Like say, when we assess that, say, for example, somebody has got, say, 10 crore of working capital limit. Mm-hmm. He was given like say 2 crore of ECLGS, 20% of that. So the working capital, like say when we calculate for the next year, so we will like say if our estimated working capital limit is say 11 crore and here 12 crore, we will not give any enhancement. We will, and the following year, out of that 2 crore ECLGS scheme, say suppose he might have repaid 50 lakhs or 1 crore depending upon his repayment tenure. So we will add that in the existing working capital what we have given, so that it will get normalized over the next 1.5 years.
Okay.
It will not just like that continue as an additional thing going forward.
Okay. And sir, if I can, change that, we basically mentioned 500 crore is like an overlap of ECLGS and restructure, right?
Yeah.
So if that 500 is like 2,500 crore exposure roughly.
No. 500 crore I am talking is the 500 crore exposure, which include 500 crore is the total outstanding. Don't confuse.
Okay. So basically, out of that 2,000 crore restructured, you have 500, which is also is ECLGS portfolio.
Yeah, included. Yeah.
So 100 crore is like an ECLGS, and therefore 500 is the exposure.
Exactly.
Okay. That's good to know, sir. Yes. Thank you so much.
Yeah, good that you asked that question. Like say, I took it for granted and explained.
Thank you, sir.
If you multiply it to 5 times and all, calculation will go haywire.
Yeah, that's what I
can't sleep.
That was the problem. Yeah, thanks for clarifying that, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. We take the next question from the line of Sri Karthik from Investec Capital. Please go ahead.
Hello. Good evening, sir. I have a couple of questions. So from a growth perspective, the MSME sector has been struggling for almost 5-6 years now since Demon. So do you think generally as we normalize and get back to regular ways, a 15-20% growth from the MSME sector can be quite sustainable from here on? That is one. Second is, if you could give some qualitative comments in terms of asset quality performance between manufacturing units and service units, sir, especially lodges, educational institutes, restaurants, etc., which have probably had a tougher time. So these two are the questions.
So your first question is on sustainability of MSME, and the second question is on the service sector and manufacturing.
Yes, sir.
See, the MSME sector from the demonetization time onwards, like say, it apparently looked like say it is going through some amount of stress and all. It is going through a period of reorganization. Those set of MSMEs who were just thriving on the taxes evaded, they are facing the music now and they are getting eliminated. So this process will continue for, the COVID also added to the U. So once these, like say, MSMEs who were, like say, who were managing the show only with the evaded, once they get wiped off, the system will come back to the normalcy. And in fact, I don't know, about 6-7 years back, I in one of the con calls I suggested, probably we had probably from up to financial year, say from 2003 to 2013 or 2004 to 2014, for about 10 years, the credit growth was almost say 3 times as the GDP growth. And you also had higher inflation, and like say the sector growth rate like say for 17-18% and all were quite normal for a few years in that period. But going forward, at that point of time, there were like say discussions that the banking sector growth rate together itself will get into single digit for like say multiple reasons. One, lower inflation is setting in. Number 2, the corporates will be driven to bond market because of your whatever like say you call the compliance cost, like say so many conditions on the bank borrowing going forward and all. And the third factor was that the capital availability for public sector banks were getting lowered, and that's why their contribution will start lowering, which will be an opportunity for the private sector banks like us. Overall seeing, we may not be seeing once again that 20% growth, 18% growth and all are going to be very tough. So overall growth, like say, will come to the single digits, and probably we should be stabilizing somewhere between 10 to 15%, and also like say getting our ROE above 15%, so that the retained earning itself will take care of the like say capital requirements, which I am talking about like say today or not today or tomorrow or day after tomorrow. I am talking for a period of like say 10 years down the line or whatever it is. That during that period, definitely the growth from these sectors will be sustainable, but it will not be 20-25% as you are expecting. This is on your first question. On second question, yes, currently the service sector is more affected compared to the manufacturing sector. Be it your hotels, be it your restaurants, be it your tourism, be it passenger car transport, be it your education, all these sectors have not yet come back to the normalcy. So it will take a few more quarters to see them back on track.
Will be our cumulative exposure to such services sectors, sir, which are impacted, of course?
Yeah, I told it comes to about like say 6 to 7%. We discussed about a couple of quarters back that the hotels, the restaurants, the school and the bus transport and things like that, which have not yet come back to the normalcy, about 5 to 6%.
So within our restructured book, is it fair to assume that a large majority of it is constituted by the services sector?
Definitely, it is a majority. May not be large majority. To greater extent, it will be there in that segment. But remember, all of them had, let's say, perfect, let's say, business model, perfect cash flow, and perfect repayment up to 29th February 2020. And let's say, wherever we are confident about the promoter, let's say, we have to support them till things come back to the normalcy.
Sure, sir. So simply back calculating these two looks like 40-50% of this book seems to be restructured.
Yeah, rather I can say this way.
Requesting participants to please stay online. We are just trying to reconnect the management back to the conference. Requesting you all to please stay connected. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for patiently holding the line. We have the management reconnected. Over to you, sir. You may please go ahead. We have the question from Shri Karthik.
Yeah, you are almost correct in your estimate.
All right. Good. Thank you so much and all the best.
Yeah.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Gaurav Jani from Centrum Broking. Please go ahead.
Thank you for taking my question, sir. Just one question on the recovery front. What steps are we taking to sort of ensure that in case of further restrictions or lockdowns, the standard portfolio at least pays up on time and recoveries don't get hampered, so that incremental slippages could be much lower. That's it. Thank you.
See, we are let's say, our branch managers and executives are in close touch with the borrower by borrower. So the branch managers are, let's say, estimating both from the arrears list and also with the discussion on each and every borrower, like say, whether he has any issues, whether his cash flow is sustainable, if at all he has any problem, whether it is temporary or permanent. What about the track record of that person, whether he is fully trustworthy or not. So if the problems are temporary, we go for the restructuring. If the problems are permanent, we are encouraging and we are in, let's say, engaging with the borrower to sell their other collaterals and reduce the outstanding and all, so that the existing business will be, let's say, sustainable to take care of the requirement and all. All the major thing what we are doing is to impress upon the borrower to reduce the outstanding in tune with the business opportunities, which is happening to a greater extent, and particularly the COVID wave has given a lot of sense to the otherwise eternally optimistic businessmen. So they are also, let's say, discussing with that to ensure the outstanding is reduced and brought back to the sustainable level by selling their collaterals.
Sure. So thanks.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Kashyap Zaveri from MK Investment. Please go ahead.
Yeah, just one, data point I wanted. Have you disclosed the number of interest income reversal for the quarter?
Somebody asked that, and I am told it is 20 crore.
Okay, thank you so much.
It is nothing but your 480 crore 1 quarter interest.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Jai Mundra from B&K Securities. Please go ahead. So just allow me a minute. Mr. Mundra just signaled. Mr. Jai Mundra, you may go ahead with your question.
Yeah, hi sir. Thanks for the opportunity. Sir, two things. One, you just mentioned about this ECLGS study that you did, that at the period end, in March 2021, the balance at customer ID level was lower. And can you tell the amount, sir? Because it looks like it would be interesting to understand that the ECLGS outstanding is around 1950 crores, 1960 crores as of last quarter. But what is the absolute amount at customer level?
See, even between 31st March 2021 and 30th June 2021, at aggregate level, the overall outstanding is 10 crore less.
Okay.
So I don't have that sheet. I think if you that whatever I told about that, I remember somebody asked this question and I told it's about to say from my memory. I don't have that sheet with me, but from my memory, like say for example, totally you have about say 2,000 crore worth of like say exposure of the what do you call இது வந்து அவனோட மொத்த எக்ஸ்போஷர் தானப்பா அது. See the like say the ECLGS loan was given about like say 2,000 crore, about 19,000 odd crore. The total outstanding of that person is about like say total is about 10,000 crore. The 20% of that is your 2,000 crore. In that your overall for about 5,000 odd crore exposure, the overall outstanding on for that BPIDs on 31st March 2021 was lower than 31st March 2020.
Right. No, that I understood. I just wanted to check, does it actually correlate to 5x or this is a slightly different number? I mean, is the outstanding 5x of disbursement or, there could be a very different number?
No. See, this is basically the like say outstanding of those borrowers who received their ECLGS.
Right. So 1950 crore is the ECLGS disbursement, right?
Yes.
And you said at March end, the
total outstanding, the total outstanding of that person is say 2,000 crore on 31st March 2020, which was pre-COVID, pre-ECLGS time period. You get me?
Yes.
For the same borrower, like say 50% of the borrower on 31st March 2021, even though they had received like say ECLGS, their final outstanding at customer ID was lower.
Correct. No. So I just wanted to understand that ratio, if it is 5x, or it looks like it could be more than 5x, right? Because he has other facility also, even though he has repaid. But
no. Basically, it is the aggregate number. Some customer would have paid more, some customer would have paid less. I am only, I looked into those customers whose outstanding was lower.
Understood. Right. And okay, sir. Anyway, and the second thing is, sir, on a gold loan, so you have seen 100% growth, and there has been an LTV change. But going forward, do you think what kind of a gold loan book can grow, sir? I mean, approximately.
Is the same. This year we also anticipate about 2,500 to 2,000 to 2,500 crore incremental disbursement.
Okay. So even on the 2,000 to 2,500. Okay. And the last question, sir, on your entire loan book of SME, if you were to bifurcate between B2B customer and B2C customer, just a ballpark range. I mean, how much of your SME customer would be, would fit into B2B segment wherein they would be part of of a larger value chain, and how much could be B2C customer facing kind of a thing?
See, you can see that the entire retail trade comes in that segment.
Right.
But coming to the, let's say, manufacturing side of the MSME, 75% of them will be B2B. Approximately, my guesstimate.
Yes. So entire trader, both retail and wholesale.
No, wholesale will be B2B.
Okay.
Retail will be B2C.
Right.
On manufacturing side, maximum will be to B2B.
Right. Okay. Yeah, all right, sir. That is all from my side. Thank you so much, sir, and all the best.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the last question for today. I would now like to hand the conference back to the management for closing comments. Over to you all, sir.
Yeah, thank you all for attending this conference. Particularly, I think I have tried to answer your question as much as possible, because I now understand we take certain things for granted, but it is being understood in a different way, and that's why the discussions come anyway. All the data points and any more discussion you want to have, you can always get in touch with us. The contact point given is Mr. Jayaraman, whose contact details are in the presentation. Once again, just to sum up, things are almost on track on whatever we discussed during the, like say, fourth quarter earlier con call. Hopefully, like say, we expect, on one side, the uncertainty of the COVID third wave is there, but we hope and pray the impact should not be bad, because the vaccination and all have improved and things like that. That is one uncertainty, still it is there before everyone in the world. Hopefully, by God's grace, let us hope things will get better. I once again request all of you to follow the COVID appropriate behavior, like masking, washing hands, not getting into the crowd, vaccination and things like that. And once again, we are always available for answering your queries. And as I told, the annual general body meeting is scheduled on 19th August. I request all of you, if possible, join through the online mode. Once again, thank you all for the opportunity, and thanks to Ambit and Mr. Kumar for organizing this con call.